Okay, so today I'm delighted to be joined by George Howarth of Commercio Digital. George is an experienced web designer working exclusively with the trade and construction profession, designing and building websites that help traders get found online, a business he founded in 2021. George has been working in the trade industry for over 15 years, having worked for Screwfix and Wickes before setting up his own business. So it's fair to say he thoroughly understands the profession and can deliver the right help trades need to thrive online. So, welcome, George, and thank you so much for joining me on the Happy Tradie podcast. I'd really love to. I mean, I'm delighted you're joining because you've got great experience in the trade industry, and you do something for trades that I absolutely believe it is a must have as part of their marketing. What would be great is just to get an understanding for some of the work that you've done in the past. What I didn't say was that you kind of started in the trade profession, kind of at the coalface, so to speak, and then moved on to sort of working for Screwfix and Wickes. So it'd be great just to get a flavour of your background, kind of what got you into that industry, and what you enjoy about working in the profession.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. Good to be here. Um, yeah, let's go back to the start, I guess. So even before I left school, I was working in a local plumbers merchant, um, selling bits and bobs. So I already had a good idea of where I was, and got talking to a lot of tradespeople, and ended up working with a local tradesperson, local general builder. Spent about 2.5 years working, mostly private work. Um, but we learned a lot from
Mm.
that being my first job, sort of out of school, really hands-on with everything, from the ground up, sort of building trades. I really got my hands on with every element of, starting with the groundworks, first fix, second fix, finishing touches, that type of stuff, really. And then sort of left that, decided to go into retail, which is where I started in Screwfix.
Yeah.
Worked in the stores there for 4.5 years or so, just working my way up to as an assistant store manager. I really enjoyed working for Screwfix. Actually, it was good insight into sort of tradespeople, and to be fair, I still did a little bit of work on the side
Yeah.
for tradespeople while working there, which is handy to have staff discount at Screwfix when you're on site. It goes down well.
Yeah.
Um, from Screwfix, I moved into a place called MP Moran's, which is a independent builders merchants around northwest London and Ireland.
Yeah.
It's sort of more in the back office and stock control. Completely different setup to a retail DIY shop to a builder's merchant. And then after a couple of years there, I moved into Wix. Decided that I like the office life more than sort of more hands-on and customer facing. So I think everyone should do a stint in retail.
Yeah.
Really gives you the appreciation for not having to deal with customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and then moved into Wix in the commercial sector, so buying. Again, worked my way up there to be a category manager, but touched on timber, bathrooms, tiles, and plumbing actually. And it's amazing how interesting and enthusiastic you can get about a bit of wood, a bit of C16 or C24 timber. You live and breathe it. You know all the treatment and all the grades of treatment, whether it can go underground or not. You go to all the timber mills and see how it's produced, so you get a real insight into from forest to shop that people normally wouldn't get to see.
And
Um,
you'll never forget that stuff either. That will stay with you for life.
Unfortunately, it's stuck in there, and I can bring it out whenever as an interesting fact. But yeah, not many people who appreciate it.
I don't think that's going to be a question on the chase, but it might be. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And then, sort of during lockdown, really, I started fiddling around with websites, and it wasn't such with tradespeople, but with another project, with like a gaming website with a friend of mine, for affiliate marketing and raffles and whatnot. And we did the thing of going, oh, we want to get a website. How do we do this? I just buy that kit. Bought a kit, loaded it up, looked shit. Said, what can we do about this? And I was like, right, give me a bit of time. And you know, a year later, I was sort of editing and going through this website, making it look much better than the thing we'd bought. Basically, just trying to make it better than everybody else's to make it stand out. think that was the main course, and I really really enjoyed that aspect. I've always quite enjoyed the design element, even when I was on site, to working in some of the sort of more designery areas in Wix. So it just sort of felt natural to me, but something that I hadn't really tapped into
Yeah.
until I started designing this website. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm all right at this. I got the hang of it a
Yeah.
bit time later, and then decide, you know what, I'm gonna start building trades at building trades, building websites for tradespeople. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and it's an area that I know quite a bit about, having spent a lot of time there. I know the sort of the market, I know the people. I can offer some insight. Hopefully, I can help them get online. And then went full time and just quit my job
Yeah.
at the towards the end of 2021 and set up Commercio with
How did
about
that
18
feel?
months worth of self-taught web design. Sorry.
How did that feel when you quit your job? Because I've kind of done it myself, and how did you find it? It's can be quite daunting when you give up the sort of salary, the paid holiday, the.
So luckily for me, I had tried to reduce as many outgoings as possible to make it as stress-free as possible. But yeah, going from having a regular income to going, yeah, I'm going to stop all of that and I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I didn't get my first web design client for about 5.5 months.
Yeah.
So it's a long time to go without sort of money coming in and worrying about ifs and buts and was it the right thing to do. But at the time, I think I was just on a bit of a high, going, yes, now I really want to jump into self-employed life. It's how I started when I was on site and decided to move away into sort of PAYE paid work, and then going back to it. And yeah, it's quite exciting. You're in control of your time, who you want to work with. Um, yeah, I a little bit daunting, and that's probably setting after a couple of months of doing it. But at the
Yeah.
start, I was just really excited. Not have to wake up at 7 a.m. on a Monday to do a sales call meeting,
Yeah.
to talk about the numbers and profit and margin and whatnot. I don't miss that.
But I mean,
um,
what you did was, I think, both brave and wise. Brave to make that switch. Not everybody is capable of doing that, so I applaud you for that. But wise because I think becoming a specialist for one niche or one industry is definitely the smartest way forward, because people want to work with specialists in their profession. So I know, because I've seen some of the work you've done. It's absolutely brilliant. You've clearly got a great handle on what makes a great website. But it's not just understanding what makes a great website. It's understanding the different nuances of each profession, and you can bring a lot more to the game when you're a specialist. I think it's so tempting when you start any sort of business to just offer services to everyone. But I think what you did was really, really smart. And I guess actually, for some of the tradies that I know we both work with, the temptation is to try and promote 50 different services, when actually they should just be focusing on a core, kind of few handful of services. So yeah, totally applaud you for that. And I suppose it was natural to just continue working with trades because you had a good understanding for their profession, right?
exactly. And specificity, if I'm saying that correctly, but being really specific about what you do
Yeah.
is something that we'll probably cover quite a bit in this podcast, and just keeping it really clear and simple. And that's what I wanted to do. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about the online world. Talk to me about how to market a business on Facebook. I wouldn't have the foggiest. I don't even have the social media.
Mm.
So being the person to go to for websites was what I set out to do. I'm going to build and become one of the best trade web designers that I can be. And I'm just going to focus solely on that with a little bit of SEO sprinkled on top for good measure, because we also want this to be an investment for people
Yeah.
who are paying me for the site. So yes, it was brave, but yes, it seemed to make sense. It all seemed to line up and fall together quite nicely.
Yeah.
I'm still here a year and a half later, nearly. So something went well.
Yeah.
Touch
No,
wood, it carries on.
I've seen your work, and I think it's brilliant. I think what you're doing is really great. So it's probably a good segue into sort of talking about websites for trades, which is what this podcast is all about. And I suppose the next question, I don't know, it's probably a little bit of a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway, because I think there is still a lot of debate going on with, social media being so prevalent these days. Is it still important for a tradie to have a website? What are your thoughts on that? I think I probably know the answer, but I'm but it's good to cover it because I think it's a bit of a myth that we don't need websites. What's your take?
I'll be honest. I think it depends, and it depends because businesses, especially trades businesses, were around way before the internet existed.
Yeah,
So you can still build a money making trade business without being online. That just happens. I know people who are working in trades. They've been doing it for 50 years.
yeah,
They've never had an online presence. They've got a mobile phone that just doesn't stop ringing, and that's great for them where they are now. I think, and we'll probably discuss this a bit later on, but we've got a bit of a divide on, word of mouth versus online. And, as times move forward and we spend more and more times on technology, where do you need to appear?
yeah,
Um, unless you're an e-commerce business, then I don't think you don't necessarily need a website. But a website can do many, many things for your business. So do you want stability within your trade, within your business? I've always said it's great to have more than one funnel for leads coming through. So it's not enough now, I don't think, especially if you're entering the world of trade and setting up on your own, to have all your work coming from word of mouth, because that's a great funnel, but there'll be limits to how much you can grow that.
yeah,
And what's the harm in having social media presence and a website and word of mouth all sort of feeding you in work? Because I know plenty of tradespeople who aren't busy all year round and they'd like to be, and they might be attacking a couple of these things, but they're not doing all of them. And word of mouth might bring in 50% of their work, but then 20% on social media, 20% on a website, yellow pages, if they still exist, I'm not quite sure. And then things like checker trade, etc.
yeah,
So having an online presence via a website will definitely increase your stability if you can get it working for you and bringing in more leads. I think also credibility. If you want to show off your work, if you do something that looks pretty, because not all of us work in a trade that is particularly pretty to show off, but if you can somehow show off your work and it gets people sort of noticing you and what you do, and it will build that credibility and that trust. It also depends, what stage people are at on their journey of purchasing. And this is something that I try to get across. It's not everybody visiting your website is going to visit the homepage and it's the first time they've ever heard about you or know about you. They might visit it, once they've already spoken to you and had a quote and go, oh, I'm going to go and have a look at their work. They do retail fit out or something. They want to see the standard of your work. So having that online presence and being able to show off what you do definitely increases your credibility. We Google everything now before we go. The barbers, especially, restaurants. You look at reviews before you go there, or shops, etc. So why do you think your service business would be any different? People are definitely going to be checking you out. I also think there's probably an expectancy for companies of a certain size to have an online presence as well. You would expect sort of large corporations or even maybe like a medium-sized enterprise upwards to definitely have an online presence if they employ members of staff and have a large turnover as a company. They expect to see something online to see what you're about, what your company, what you're up to, what the news, the latest updates, etc. I mean, this segment we could cover
yeah,
for
I think
hours and hours and hours and hours. But if you want to show up, on Google, yes, you need a website or Google My Business, which we can come on to. You want to increase your competitive advantage. It also depends on who you're trying to attract. So some people are only going to research online and find their company. Not everybody knows a plumber or an electrician. If I ask one of my mates, if you've got a number for a Sparky, no. So where am I going to find one? And Google would be the first
yeah,
place that I would go to. And I think as generations now are using things like TikTok or for searching for things, or Instagram or whatever sort of social medias, that word of mouth I think is probably going to become less and less.
Mm.
um, and I think people now are going to rely a lot more heavily on like Google reviews and checking
Yeah.
up on
I,
online
I
what
see
who they can
some
find.
I see some trades doing some fantastic stuff on TikTok, really embracing the platform,
Yeah.
building huge audiences. Of course, those audiences, are going to be global audiences. So you can argue, well, how much is that really doing for their sort of local presence? But what's really interesting is those traders that have adopted the platform and now getting paid partnerships,
Right.
with brands, brands that supply tools, and clothing to the trade industry. Some of these guys, there's a guy on TikTok that I follow, because I'm on TikTok, but I don't post, but I'm a bit of a lurker. And
Mm.
he runs a business that builds bespoke sort of wooden gazebos, like out of oak, high end, you're probably talking 10, 15, 20 grand a piece.
Right.
But he's built, I don't know, it's definitely over 250,000 followers, with him just talking his way through his day, through his jobs, through the tools that he's doing, through the materials that he's using. And then I see he's doing like paid partnerships, which is just insane to think, that tradies can now be influencers. It's incredible, but I think that's a whole different podcast, right? I think that's a brilliant answer, because what I'm taking from your answer is, and this is why I think it's so important to work with people that understand the business, understand the profession. Because what I'm getting is that a website isn't for everyone, and if somebody came to you for a website and you didn't feel they needed it, or they didn't have the infrastructure around to kind of support it, you're not just going to do a website for a website's sake. It's about making sure that they understand how it's going to work for their business and their wider kind of business objectives. And if they want to grow, if they want to move away from relying too much on word of mouth, which can only take your trade business so far, you can't scale a business on that. That's when the website sort of comes in. So totally get what you're saying. It's possible to run a very successful trade business, because they have been for generations without a website. But if you're serious about growth and you want to scale, then a website absolutely needs to be the hub of your marketing, right?
Yeah. And you need to remember it's online 24/7, 365.
Yeah,
It's permanently your salesperson online. Well, you can definitely make a good go of social media, and people do, as the example there. It requires quite a bit of effort and time. And can you dedicate that much time per week to doing something where, a website, you can pay somebody to launch something online, you're online within a couple of weeks, say a couple of months max, and that's it's there then, a little bit of maintenance here and there, and you're pretty much set. That's there.
yeah,
Social media requires, understanding the algorithm updates, and how are you going to make sure you're attracting an audience. You do, probably requires more time you watching other people on social media to learn how they're doing it, to then make sure that your content's better than theirs so you can get noticed. I don't think social media is a bad way to promote your business. I would probably urge people to stick to maybe one or two, and try not to overwhelm yourself with the amount of social media content that you can create and do. For example, I'll use LinkedIn as my sort of lead generator, and
yeah.
somewhere where I can share all of my work and what I do, and why a website will benefit your business. But I will stay away from all the other ones, because otherwise I'll just spend 9 hours a day on social media and
Think,
not making any websites.
So thinking about the website itself, so we've established that the tradie would benefit from a new site. What, in your experience, are the critical elements that go to to make up a really great website for a tradie?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, any service-based website is going to need, your essentials like your home, about, your service, portfolio, contact page. But that's the really sort of boring stuff that I have to worry about for you, not the stuff that you have to think about for your website. I'd say the thing that really, really needs to be honed in on is be really specific about what you do, be really clear about what you offer and who it's for. And you can do that a couple of ways via the mediums of like imagery or copy. And when I say be specific, is think about who your ideal, your perfect customer is. All right, give them a name, give them a job, give them a salary, know where they live, what type of building they have, and really hone in and then go, right, they're going to have a specific problem that they want solved. That's your ideal customer. Now, how do you answer that problem speaking to that customer? You know, if you're, I'll use an example as a plumber who only works with commercial properties, office building blocks, big sort of like boiler rooms, plant rooms, that type of stuff. You're not going to want to attract, like somebody who like a new home owner who just wants their a radiator fitted or something that it's a half a day or a day's work. Plumbers are going to come at me going, no, 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 fitting a radiator is at least 2 days' work. That's what I charge. And who might be on a bit of a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
You want the sort of the bigger projects that you can really get your teeth into. Maybe your M&E and you can do all the design and all the ducts in and all that sort of stuff. So think about who your exact customer is and be specific
Yeah.
about what you offer. And again, like I said, you can do that literally with words. Using words like your commercial or residential or like
Yeah.
industrial or hospitality, whatever, and imagery as well. I'll again use another plumbing example. I'm building one at the moment, and you know, works on boiler rooms and plant rooms. I'm not going to use imagery of like domestic boilers because that would just send the wrong message to the people that are visiting their website. Because sometimes we don't really read anything; we just skim it and go, "Okay, cool, that looks like what I have. I can relate to this.
Mm.
Cool, I'm going to book this guy," and it's just wasting your time and their time, really. So, yeah, if you can be really specific about what you do and who it's for, save everyone a lot of time, but also it'll make your website much better. You're getting, much warmer or even hot leads coming into your inbox.
Mm.
And then the other element I'd say, because once you've covered, what you do and who it's for, be personal.
Yeah.
People buy into people. It's why social media platforms work so well. It's why influencers, sorry, have created their career from just being a personality. So, you know, again, go back to that journey thing. Customers sometimes will come to your website and they already know that you're a plumber based on your brand name and your pictures that you've used on there, but they might just want to get to know you.
Mm.
um I'm very much a believer in voting with your feet. So if and social media has made that much easier to know which CEOs of said companies are knobheads, and therefore I'm not going to spend my money with them.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to see what people are like, and family run companies and who are honest and reliable, or the bigger companies who stick to their word via testimonials, etc. You can see the quality of their work through their portfolios. So be personal, show your face, show your team, show that you're real people, because that's who are visiting your website as well. You can really sort of just make a connection online, which is very difficult to do, make a connection online without showing your face.
Mm.
you know Otherwise it's just words and pictures of stuff.
How do you I'd love to hear your take on this. When you say to a tradie, hey, look, we're gonna have to, we're gonna feature you on the website, what sort of response do you get? Because I know from working with them, as soon as you start talking photographs or photo shoot, they don't want to know. How do you get around that, or can you get around
No, not really.
it?
I think I've got one. I
Yeah.
think out of all the website builds that I've done, I've got one that's
Oh,
got a
isn't it?
team photo and a owner photo on them at
Yeah.
the moment. A few of them are planned for it, but still not just there quite yet.
I mean,
Um,
I've found, because obviously I do a lot of work with PPC, so we sort of do landing pages and stuff like that, and I find just talking pound notes, money, really helps.
mm,
So saying to them, look, if you have your photograph on your website, you're gonna build, like you said, make that connection with your audience. Your conversion rate will go up, almost certainly. I've never seen it go down, unless the photos are just really awful and you've got a 20-year-old van that's falling to pieces. In most cases, the conversion rate is going to go up. So you're going to get more calls, you're going to get more leads, and you're going
Yeah.
to get the business. So I think just talk the language of money, and
Yeah.
that helps.
I preach this, but I'm guilty of it myself. I think my own
Yeah,
website's got photos of me on it, but the avatar photos rather than real life ones. And the genuine answer is I haven't quite got an area or a space yet where I felt comfortable enough to take a photo in public,
yeah. No,
or
I
haven't had my hair done that day. You know.
yeah, no, I get that. I get that. So just, I mean, there's some great advice there, and I wrote some notes while you were talking. So being really clear on who your
Yep.
audience is, and who you want to sort of attract, to your business. Like you said, I mean, some are, going to be commercial, some are going to be more leaning towards domestic. Imagery and relevance of that imagery, because as the old saying goes, a picture tells 1,000 words. And I love, your take on, making the website have some personality. I think it's so important. So yeah, trying to get some team pictures up there, inject a bit of your own sort of personality in the site, because that's the goal, isn't it? To make that connection, with the person that's visiting the website. What because obviously I'm sure you'll see a lot of trade websites before they get to you. What are some of the mistakes they're making when they're trying to do it themselves, do you think? I suppose it's almost the opposite to what you've said, but in your experience, kind of what are some of the mistakes you see they're making?
I've done it themselves.
Yeah. It's a bit like if
No,
you
on it,
had to build a wall, it wouldn't be pretty.
yeah. You should have seen the wall I plastered in my parents' house when I was about 18 years old. It's still standing, but you could ride a surfboard on it. It's
Right.
that
Okay.
wavy. It's awful. I look at it now, I'm like, can we cover this up with a bookshelf or something?
Yeah.
I don't want this on show, or don't tell people I did this. Um, no, um, some of the biggest mistakes I see is, or even when people approach me for a website, is seeing a website as a cost rather than an investment.
Mm.
If you look at your website as a cost and not an investment, then it's just something you haven't really thought about. You just think, oh, I just need one because everyone else has got one. I need one. I'll get one. How much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
And if cost is the number one priority for you when, researching or looking at getting online, it's probably because you haven't quite researched why you want to get online in the first place.
Yeah.
If it's a cost dependent thing, because, you can go to various places and get websites for, 50 quid
Yeah.
and you're online, you're sorted, that's it, you're done. But it's not going to do anything for you. So you might as well, burn that £50 note,
Yeah.
rather than thinking of spending a little bit more money and having it actually work for you.
Mm.
The work that we do, especially PPC, and I can look at organic traffic, is very measurable.
Yeah.
So we build websites that we can have a look at keyword rankings, where we're appearing on Google, and how much traffic we're getting from Google from our website. But there's the other part of having a website that isn't measurable, which you can still say was contributed by having a design. So again, go back to the journey thing. Somebody might already know about you. They might have even called up, had a quote, and then they're going, I'm going to look at their work. I'm going to go on their portfolio and have a look at their standard of work. And that seals the deal for that particular client. So um, having a website and looking at it as something that will work for you and bring some money into you is the right way of looking at it. Anyone can build a landing page that
Mm.
has a contact form on it, and it's also a representation of you as your business. So those 50 quid landing pages, it's like turning up in that banged up van, that you've had for 25, 30 years. It's got four different wheels on it and different colors and whatnot. You think, well, you know, uh, they're particularly good at what they do because they don't, it's all
Yeah.
about appearances, isn't it? When you turn up on to a job, or especially, I think also, especially if you're turning up to like a
Mm.
domestic job, and they're going to see, what you're turning up in. The van example is one that I use quite regularly. That tradespeople, you don't walk into a dealership and go, oh, I want that van. You go in there with a list of requirements that you want it to have air conditioning, or you need it to have a certain load capacity, or DAB radio so you can listen to fixed radio, the builder's station. Thought I'd
Yeah.
just get that little plug in there for them.
Have you got some sort of partnership with him?
Yes. Yeah,
The
I
radio of
recently teamed
choice
up
for all trade professionals, fixed radio.
fixed radio. Don't listen to anything else. yeah, Fixed Radio and I we've teamed up so we can offer websites to 200,000 of their listeners. So
That's amazing.
yeah, that exciting opportunity for us to work with them, yeah,
So,
and work with more people.
so what I'm taking from that is the big thing there is the big takeaway is, stop looking at these things as just a cost and think of them as an investment. They're an investment in your business. They're an asset, right, to your business. It's a bit like, I guess, in their world, it's a bit like if you're building an extension or doing a conversion. You know what? If you've got a customer that is purely seeing it as a cost thing and no benefit, then they're always going to be sensitive on price. But if it's something that they're going to be adding value to their home, and it's going to increase the value of their home, or they're going to get really great use out of it, then suddenly it shifts from being a cost to an investment. And I think you're right. The website is exactly that. It's an investment in their business. As soon as they make that kind of cognitive sort of switch in their brain to see it that way, the conversation changes. What I'd love to explore is like the process for getting a website. So what's your process? So somebody's interested in a new website. Talk me through the kind of steps you go through to get them online.
Yeah, sure. So I start off with just a casual chat, 20 minutes, just to find out a bit about you, a bit about your business. We don't go into all the sort of super fine details with having a website, but let's just get a feel for you, what you do, what stage you're at with your business, who your customers are, um, what you want the website to do for you. If you've got any design preferences, which usually not so much, but you know, what you kind of want it to look like, modern, traditional, that type of thing, really.
Yeah,
And then once we've decided that, okay, cool, your business is right for a website, and you agree that we should move forward, then we look at having a bit of a more detailed chat, and that's when we go into the specificity
yeah,
of what they do, who their customer is, who we're trying to attract onto the website, and then hand me the keys and a bit of money, and away we go.
yeah,
Um, let's get building. I generally build a homepage first,
yeah,
so it gives the look and the feel of the website, so people get an idea of what it's going to look like. Generally, it does change as the design develops because 2 weeks later I'll start designing other pages and I'll go, well, actually this works really well. Now I need to incorporate that back onto the homepage, and that's the bit that I do in the background. And once the homepage is signed off, then I crack on with the rest of the build, and generally that's all done 6 to 8 weeks, and you're away.
yeah,
Um, you've got an online presence. We do all of the on-page SEO. We do sort of the metadata and such.
yeah,
Alt text, that sort of stuff for accessibility and for SEO. We run it all through Google Search Console, etc. for you.
yeah,
And then we can also maintain your website afterwards. Keep an eye on the keyword rank traffic, the keyword rankings, yeah.
yeah,
Just see how your website's performing because you know you've made this investment, and if you're brand new and you've never had a website before, it's going to take a little while for it to take off. So Google takes a little bit of time to do the learning. You know this.
mm,
Um, so we can happily track that for you, and 6 months down the line, we can go, right, these are the revisions I'm going to make based on
yeah,
how it's currently performing, etc. Or you might have had a previous website, and then we can do those a little bit quicker.
mm,
But we've had some really fantastic results from just our on page and
yeah.
tech SEO that we do. Obviously, there's always going to be a limit to how much you do unless you're going to continue to do some ongoing SEO or some ads or such. So yeah,
Well,
and
I, I,
then and then
I always
away you go.
I would see it as a great opportunity because what I find when I'm doing this sort of, I suppose the bit after, it's the kind of bit where you sort of hand over, I guess, in some instances to guys like me to continue the ongoing sort of regular marketing day to day. And what I find is that there is such an opportunity for tradies to get a new website because one, like you said, it will come sort of preloaded with great content, great images, the SEO, initial SEO done for them, so they will pick up ranking because their local competitors just aren't investing in their website or in their online marketing. So they might have one or two local competitors that are on it and are doing stuff. And I'm not saying they can sit back and do nothing, but in a lot of cases, just having a really great website that's well built by a professional like you, that's well constructed, like you said, with the right sort of metadata, obviously the title tags and the page descriptions, just that alone can often make a big difference to them in the following kind of 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So really, really important.
I would say it's a good base to start from.
Yeah,
It will build up and it will work. It will get you to a certain point on Google, and that completely depends on how competitive your trade is and in the area and the keywords that we're going for. So there'll always be a limit, but it will do something for you, and then ongoing, that will almost give you a bit of a boost and see you showing up in more places if that's what you want to go down.
yeah,
But it's a great base for you to get started on.
yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely.
So do you offer kind of any sort of initial audit or anything? Would you take a look at a tradie's website and kind of give them a little bit of a steer as to how they could improve it? Is that something you would do?
Yeah, we have a look at sort of how the website is currently performing, like speed tests and SEO audits,
Yeah,
just to see if they're currently ranking for anything,
yeah,
if they're ranking for the right things as well, and how their makeup of the website's done. More often than not, it ends up being you need this to be redone because it's a little bit all over the place, and you've got 60 plugins, which means your website takes about 60 seconds to load, and you're not showing up anywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's easier to knock it down and start from scratch, like you would when you go around to do, you know, a full-on renovation or refurbishment of a house. Sometimes
yeah,
it's easier just to take a bulldozer to it and start from the ground up and do it how lay out the framework and the wireframe how you would want to,
yeah,
which will give it a better chance of performing well long term.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. George, so much great advice in this podcast. So, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your thoughts. There's some really great advice there that tradies can unpack. And little plug for you, where can they find you online?
So best places to find me is either on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
You can search my name, George Howarth, or commerciodigital.com.
nice one.
You'll find me.
The final question we love to ask guests on the Happy Tradie podcast is, this is all about, this podcast, and I guess what we do is all about helping tradies kind of create some freedom in their life so they can lead whatever their definition of a happy life is. Nobody wants to be working kind of 14, 15-hour days. It's all about working smart, getting bigger, more profits coming into your business, getting your marketing right, getting your sales right, getting your processes right, so you can lead a happy life. So the question that I always ask guests at the end is, what's your definition of happiness? What's your kind of happy place?
Oh, my happy place is in a good restaurant, eating some good food. Usually in a country that's quite warm.
Yeah,
But yeah, having less desires for materialistic items and just you know travel, explore, learn, laugh,
yeah,
eat good food, do a bit of exercise. You know, I think the year, 2020 to 2022 is when we were all locked up at home was the year of work-life balance.
yeah,
And I think I definitely live that way now.
yeah.
So yeah, that would be my definition.
What's your favorite restaurant, favorite food?
Oh, that's difficult. When I'm in London, there's a place called Alta, and don't know if it's my favorite, but I go there quite a lot, so it must be.
Yeah,
And it's a sort of vegan, sort of Southeast Asian restaurant that does the most incredible laksa,
yeah.
and I would recommend anybody, if you're in the area, it's sort of East London, to go and check out
Nice.
Alta.
Cool. So many plugs in one episode.
I know. You
Brilliant.
think they'd be paying me, right?
It should be. George, thank you so much for appearing on the Happy Trading podcast. So many great nuggets, so much great wisdom. So thank you so much for taking your time out.
No worries, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.